You're all here tonight to hear about boondocking. Greg Sumner is here. He did a no-build minivan trip in Arizona and New Mexico for 6 weeks last winter. And he went to the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, which you may have seen in Nomadland, and managed to boondock most nights on public land or other kind of camo camping situations. Greg's been enjoying outdoors his entire life. He grew up in Northfield. He loves the BWCA. Currently, he's up in Duluth, and he's organized a number of activities up in Duluth and enjoys hiking, biking, canoeing, sailing, climbing, camping, and you might join him on an ice creaking expedition. So take it away, Greg.
All right, thank you. All right, so how do I get there? It is share screen. All right, so I'll jump into that. This is so much different than the old days. There we go. All right, so thanks for that introduction. So basically my journey starts with, I was an empty nester. I didn't know what to do next. So somebody said van life sounded like a good idea. So next thing I knew, I was talking to people, but then the pandemic happened and I wasn't able to go. The original plan was to go out for a year, but then I decided to just take my job back and avoid the pandemic. So I stuck around. I waited until actually about exactly a year ago from now. I headed out on about January 5th or maybe January 8th and was gone for 6 weeks. That was the main goal, was just to be gone for 6 weeks. I was really nervous about the experience, about being out on the road. And I didn't know what to do. So I kind of really leaned on this Home on Wheels Alliance. I was looking at all the different videos that were going on out there, trying to figure it out. And this kind of really came up. Maybe I should back it up and go here first, actually. Whoops, let me see. Actually, I started with this one, actually. This was way back in like maybe 2020, right after my son graduated. I was trying to figure out if I should go for a build minivan, van, but then I saw this video. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Bicycle Touring Pro. It's a great video now on YouTube, and he showed how he lived out of this Dodge Grand Caravan, and that was the video that sold me on switching over to just doing a simple no build minivan. Kind of my main goal was to just keep it simple and allow a system that I can use in other parts of my life, like, you know, canoeing and hiking. And so that's kind of, it made sense to me. It was super simple, less building, less changing. I don't know if you know any minivan people, but they're constantly wanting to change situations, or at least for me, I don't know what I want to do when I'm on the road. So it's kind of nice to have flexibility. So that was the biggest thing I did. The reason I chose that. So then I found out about this, the RTR. And so this is I found it online, and there's all these different videos. And if you saw the movie, Bob Wells was in the movie, and he's a guy that puts on this big gathering out there in Arizona. And so it just talks about, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's like presentations for like 8 days, and it was just a blast. So the main thing it did for me is get me out the road, get me out the door, and get me started. So that was kind of the best thing I got out of that. Oh, and I forgot to say, if you have questions, I do have a second computer going. I'm trying to see if that'll work. If you want to throw it in the chat box, I'll see if I can answer it. Or if it's just really pressing, just unmute yourself and ask me a question. If it's, we'll keep it short and we'll keep moving, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So that'd be great. All right, so let me just double check here. And as everybody can, I'm assuming everybody can hear fine, but and everybody's good. All right, so if nothing else comes up, I'll keep going here. So so this is Bob Wells. He's just a great guy. He gave a nice presentation out there, and just a great group of people out there. Even before I left, they have these virtual caravans that you can go into, and that really helped me get my head straight on things to help me prepare for going on the road. And they had just people would get on once a week, whether they're on the road or about to get on the road, and they would help you kind of figure out tips, any ideas. Like, I didn't have a spare tire for my Grand Caravan. It was really annoying, and I worked with some people. I never ended up getting it till after my trip, but it was just nice to have other people to talk to about that. So that really helped. So in essence, this is my trip. Started up here in Duluth and then went down to Colorado. I had a couple friends in Colorado, and then went down to Quartzsite down in here. Arizona is where the Rubber Tramp was, and then headed down by Tucson. Spent a lot of time in Tucson area, and then in this area over in the southwestern New Mexico. So that's kind of the essence of my 6 weeks, was in this, basically here in these two areas. So kind of the goal of this presentation is I'm going to go through a lot of different screens. It might be a little overwhelming, so if you don't like that dizziness, just kind of look away when I'm switching screens maybe, but I'm going to hopefully show you some different tips and tricks on how you could get on the road if you're kind of interested in that. Trying to make this little screen go away. All right, so keep popping down here. All right, so I love the app Keep. That was kind of one of my biggest to-do lists that I used to help prepare. And just, this isn't for my van trip, but something I've just evolved into now is I love taking pictures of my gear. It helps me just relax to know that I can see the pictures of what I need to bring, and it helps just kind of cue my memory. I've just loved that part of changing my system. All right, so here's the minivan. So I got it's like a 2018 Dodge Grand Caravan. I was able to stash my bike inside. This is kind of one of the key parts. These screens here, this is a Reflectix. You can buy it at Menards, and you just custom cut those. I used some cardboard, and then I painted the other side black. That is, for me, was a big deal to be all camouflaged, so I could just park really most anywhere, and people didn't know I was in there, and it made it a lot more comfortable for me. Oh, and then here's the next thing. One of the biggest things is, so being out in the desert for 7 days, I didn't want to have to be worried about, I was just kind of going in blind. And this toilet, I found a video on the Home on Wheels Alliance page, and they talked about this. It's a cassette toilet. And so basically what it means is the top part has flushing water in there, like with ammonia, and then the bottom tank comes off the bottom, and then you walk into the rest area and you can dump it out. So it can last like 4 or 5 days with one person. So for me, that was a game changer. And I was really excited when it came in the mail. I had to send my pictures to my friends and things. So that was a lot of fun. Here's a little bit, I'm just going to go through a few pictures of my van. Like I say, it's not for everyone. I liked the simplicity of it, and it gave me a lot of adaptability. I'm still driving my van now just fine. But the beauty of the Dodge Grand Caravan is you can pull the seats out. So there are no seats in here. This is all storage now. And I pulled the 2 seats out in the back. So I have this water jug. I have just a cooler. I didn't get a fridge. I do have a Jackery 240 solar power. I did like hanging my utensils up. And I have just a pantry here for food. And kind of the beauty of, I just looked around my house and threw some stuff in my van and said, you know what, I kind of like this. This works fine for me. And I have a yoga mat that helped a lot for my knees. My knees were really calloused after 6 weeks, actually, because I was kneeling on the ground quite a bit. This is my cooking area here. I would cook inside, and I actually had a carbon monoxide detector in the van. And I used blocks of ice. Blocks made a big difference compared to ice cubes. So I have the MSR wind burner. And so it's just real simple burner. And I cooked simple meals. In my cooler, I'd have yogurt, granola, and just pasta salads, things like that. So nothing too fancy, but I'd have some sun-dried tomatoes and things. So it's just pretty good living out there. So I had a futon that kind of I bought on Amazon. It flips out. In the day it's a chair, and then the night it's my bed. And there's just so much already set up in a minivan that's nice. You notice these hooks for me were huge. That's where I hung a lot of different things. And it really helped organize quite a bit. So, I mean, if you're used to hiking or boundary waters, this makes it so much easier. You're already kind of prepared to live like that. I loved this fan for just kind of the noise and just kind of cool me off. I always hang my flashlights on the side. And this water jug, I'll show you a picture of what I evolved to later. But, and then I did actually buy some pepper spray just for security safety standpoint. Never ended up using it, but it's just nice to have it. If I were to get another one, I'd get the gel spray. So it didn't spray as much, but having a nice bathroom bag is really nice. I had that hanging, so even if I went and showered somewhere, it's just having it all together made a big difference. So here's the picture of the under this. This is where seats normally are, and I was able to pull those out and just store stuff in there. It helped a lot. These are the protectors for the windows. Just hanging bags here, hanging coats, things like that. Just looking at here. All right. So here's a little video. So hopefully you can hear this, but it'll go kind of fast. So we'll see. Maybe it'll run. But I think I've done a pretty good job now showing you. So I feel all right about that, even if it doesn't play. All right, we're going to skip that one. There we go. All right. So this is the Jackery. I actually really enjoyed watching it charge the battery. I mean, it's definitely a couple steps higher than watching paint dry. Not a lot, but it's just fascinating to watch power being made. So here's my carbon monoxide detector, things like that. So just having little storage areas. Once a day I would try to reorganize things and put them back into place. Made a big difference. So this is before I left. So we're back still before I left. There was also a lot of chaos trying to get it all together, but it all came together. And of course, it's like the coldest week on record for years. And I was trying to pack. I was outside trying to stick this bike trailer in my topper, and my hands were burning cold. It hurts so bad. And one thing I would recommend in the future is I actually had this inside my house, and I was able to actually fit that later, but I had to make a last minute decision not to bring it. So the first night I was able to drive down to Iowa. So basically what I did is I just drove until I thought I could go anymore. And then I pulled out this iOverlander app. That's like, if you're going to write something down, write this app down. It's one of the best for finding just off-grid camping or just places people have camped. So what I did is I would pull up the iOverlander and it would tell me where I was. I could kind of set it up so it would show me where I was in relation to the campsites. And I clicked, so I was like coming in. So I clicked on this campsite and then it showed me some of the things that were going on here. So this was a small communal campground, but actually nobody was there. So it was like, I didn't even have there. It was just really quiet. So I left, in January, a year ago at this time. So it's not a very good camping season in Iowa. So I just stopped there late at night, slept for the night, put up all my blinders, and it was no problem. I was really nervous at first in the beginning of my trip with that, but I got more used to it as I went. So this is me camping out that night, just putting all these things up. Had my little lantern, made a big difference. I didn't mind the coziness. I was still not quite organized because it was so darn cold packing my van in January. But as the trip went on, it got better. So, all right, so we'll keep moving here. So these are I made some curtains, and they were like, I spent a little extra to make sure they're, really the thickest curtains you can get. And I just took some aluminum and kind of put it in between here, like a bar, and just stuck it in between. And it worked great. Like I went outside my van and I could not see any light coming out. So it really gave that camo experience. Yeah, it was just a mess right there. I still have my toilet up front. Oh, the bummer, the video didn't show you. The video has a great picture of, I was able to put the toilet behind my bed, so you really couldn't even see it. And it really was nice without the seat. It was just tucked in the way back, and it actually fit. So then I finally got down near in Colorado. I was able to get out and have a nice little lunch alongside the road. Worked out really nice. I stopped my first place I went, so then I'm gonna jump here. I was able to figure this out beforehand. Let me see. I can't get this thing to go down. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to access my screen. Shoot. Of course, the best laid plans. Let me see. All right, so I'm going to play around here. Sorry. So this will get a little bit crazy. Oh, shoot. All right. All right, commercial here. So one tip I really encourage you to find is Gas Buddy. It's a great app for finding the best gas prices, because when you're traveling 10 hours a day, you can save quite a bit of money by looking ahead. So that's a great one to put in your list of good apps or websites to get. I'm just flipping through these here. Sorry. Let's see. Oh my gosh, screen sharing has stopped. All right, shoot. I was hoping that wouldn't happen. All right, so I got to go back into screen share. Sorry about that. Does anybody have a question? You can unmute themselves and ask me while I'm trying to find my place again here.
Greg, there are two questions here in the chat.
Yeah, what's that?
One of them is, please define boondocking.
Boondocking, great question. I would call it just camping in public lands. A lot of times is what I would call it. Everybody, there's so many different terms for it. Boondocking, and I can't remember what the other ones are, but basically it's just being able to like camp off, you know, either it's in the Walmart parking lot is an option you can use. It's just being able to, it's not staying at campsites that you pay for generally. So that's what I would kind of give my quick summary on what it would be. So that's one option. What's the other question we got?
The other question is, Holly is wondering how you stayed warm overnight, your first night in Iowa.
You bet. I'm used to sleeping outside. So I had a 15-degree sleeping bag, and that worked out pretty good. I didn't have a big problem. And that was some of the discussions we had ahead of time on the virtual chats, is candles really made a big difference. And I'm more of just a person that I don't really worry about it too much, because I just, my 15-degree bag, it didn't get really below. Yeah, that first night was a little cold now that I think about it. Might have had an extra blanket, but it was Iowa, so it wasn't as cold as Duluth was that time. But yeah, so it wasn't too bad. So I would say candles make a big difference. I have seen some people, they do use like a Mr. Buddy. And there was some chat on some of the channels I'm on about that. But I would say just get a good sleeping bag and some blankets. That's the beauty of having a van, is it's not like you're carrying it in your backpack. So, all right, beauty. All right, can you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
All right, good. I cannot make that thing go away. Shoot. Oh, what I was gonna say. All right, so here we go. All right, so yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. All right, so let's go here. All right, so this is my Gaia. The other app I love, so Gaia is kind of my map on the wall that shows me everywhere I've been, and I just love it because I have a hard time remembering some of the times, the places I've been, and this thing I'm able to, like, as I'm traveling, kind of mark out where I've been. So I have, like, that's the first place I camped, and I was able to put that in there. It's just, I love it. It's kind of just my prosthetic brain for remembering where I'm at. And I just love it. Hopefully other people use it. It's a free app. You know, if you get the paid version, you do get some nice bonuses. So I ended up going in here. I visited a friend, went to Garden of the Gods. If you haven't been to Garden of the Gods, great place to go. Check it out. And I'm able to zoom in. I was able to do a hike around that area. And oh my goodness. All right. Is there another question as I try to navigate, trying to make this thing go down again? We had it totally planned out. All right, there we go. I think we're good now. I think it's going to go back. No more questions yet? All right. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Maybe I can do it like that. Huh.
Greg,
All
there's
right.
a question here. I don't know if you want to wait, but
Go for it, because I feel like I'm trying to get my screen to go straight here.
okay.
Yeah, what's the question?
Okay. Did you have any issues with people or police asking you to move on? And how did you find public locations?
Great. Yeah. Never had anybody knock on my door. And that was always the biggest conversation that happened, is what happens if that, and basically the biggest thing is to say, hey, I'm just too tired. And you had to just be okay with the idea of, you might have to get up in the middle of the night and move. That might happen. But the way I found it was through that iOverlander app. That's how I would find those places. And then the two biggest things I would say is, I would always know that a Walmart generally was okay. And I always knew that, like, rest areas. I've gotten really good about knowing rest areas are pretty much for sure okay to camp at. Like, you can sleep there. The first night I ever slept in a rest area with my son, he was up in the middle of the night, and he was coming back from using the bathroom, and I just about jumped up and like rung him in the neck because I was so freaked out. But rest areas, I feel like, are so safe. Like, it's just a great place to stay at and have as kind of like that for sure place that's going to be fine. Oh, it's almost gone. So that's one of the big things I would say. Oh, there we go. Good. I got rid of it. Finally. All right. Now I'm back in action. Okay. So this is the app. So this is iOverlander. So you asked, how do I find where I can stay? So I would just go like this. So I went to Colorado Springs. So then after I left, I was like, all right, it's like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I started looking around where I can stay. So then I go here and I look at this spot and I click on that. It says Lone Duck Campground. I click on it. And then it brings me to this spot here, and then I check it out, and I can read the description, And then I can read some people put pictures, they talk about all these different pieces. Last check-in, so it was June 28th, and they talk about some different things on there. So it took me a while, I'll admit it. I mean, now I can say, yeah, it's a piece of cake, but in the beginning I was freaked. It's scary, but it's tips I would say is to get there before dark, get there a couple hours before dark and get comfortable. It can make a big difference. And even do it, practice in your area, practice, like pull out that app and go find some places around the cities and check it out and try it and play around with it. And then you get more and more comfortable as you do it. So it's Garden of the Gods. They have a great movie and great little center there. Talks about the history, the geological history of the area. This is Garden of the Gods area. This is the hike. I went all around these big formations. But yeah, it's a great spot. So then it was really fun because on the next day I was like, all right, where do I go? So I pulled up that iOverlander and I ended up in the most beautiful spot. And that's one of the biggest reasons I like boondocking. Look at this. Like at 3 o'clock, I didn't even know where I was going to sleep. And it was like, it's like the thrill of boondocking is like, oh geez. And all of a sudden I'm out in the middle of nowhere in this incredible area. It was so nice and nobody else was out there. So the other option I like about Gaia is that it actually shows you can add a layer that's public lands, and that's for the premium version. And then for sure you're not on private land. And so then the different colors are based on this key here. So then basically that's helped me a couple times to know I'm for sure on a good spot. But in the end, like I say, I parked my van so I knew I could get out easy if somebody were to knock or I was spooked. But you kind of get used to it after a while. So I would just say this Monarch Pass, like coming from Colorado Springs, I went and visited my friend in Ouray. That was spooky. I was really nervous. I didn't have any winter tires on and there was so much snow in that area, but it's a beautiful, beautiful pass if you ever get out there. This is Ouray. If you've never been out, it's this beautiful little town. It's spelled Ouray, and it's like one of the biggest ice climbing areas around. And I mean, some days there'll be 30 people climbing in this valley. It was just incredible. Yeah, there you go, Ouray. And they have a Via Ferrata. Add that to your list. If you like Via Ferratas, that's where you actually clip in and you can go around the mountains and stuff, the rock face. Just fantastic. Went out and hiked to my friend's cabin and there's like a mountain lion. He was like, oh yeah, it kind of checks me out every once in a while. But great place. He built this little cabin out there. It's just incredible. Stopped at Four Corners. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's interesting to stop there if anybody's been there. This was kind of spooky as I was leaving. So this is I'm going to jump around. This is the part where I apologize. So I was just driving and I left Ouray. I just kind of took off, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. Like thinking about those roads in Colorado, like you really do have to think about where you go and the weather. You can't just, it's not like Minnesota where for the most part, you're fine. In the mountains, it's like, if they say chains, there's a reason they're saying chains. So just be aware of that. But as I was going, all right, so then I was heading down. All right, so let's get where we are. All right, so we're heading down this way. So I think this is where I camped. Yeah, so when I go into here, I can click on that. And this is my, I said quick camping spot. I could hear traffic, but nice forest. I pulled in at night. That one was pretty spooky. I just fully blindly went to that spot. Like I used my iOverlander and just kind of zoomed out like this and just went down to where I was, and I kind of zoomed in and I was like, all right, I'm near, let's just say Sholo. And I pulled up and I clicked on a campsite, and then it showed me some options and just a quick little commercial. This is all the stuff that's in iOverlander. There's just so much. The water really helped me too, to kind of figure that out. All right. I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but it's a variety show. So this was that spot just off the freeway. And I did see one other van there. We didn't talk to each other because we were both there at night. But it was all good. I parked in a spot I felt comfortable with, and it was all right. I was just north of like Sedona or something. So I had to get some water. I carried about 7 to 10 gallons of water with me because I was in the desert for a week, but you don't need it if you're not going to be out for a long time in the desert. This thing is awesome. It made such a difference because this, when I had this, my other one kept falling all the time. And to have this, it's a rechargeable pump. So you could get a 5-gallon jug and then just pump, and it's rechargeable with USB. That thing is like a huge game changer. for water because you're always going to need it. And surprisingly, my water never froze, and I was in 20-degree air in Arizona. And of course, COVID, I was a little worried. We was going to head into the RTR, the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, that I get COVID, but and they were still selling out of COVID. Imagine a year ago. It's so nice to think that this is so much behind us. I think. So my friend Rudy and I, we had to kind of stay back from the convention for a little bit because we were waiting on our test results. We got negative, but we were just going to wait until we felt a little better. So made it to court site. So when I got there, this is where they talked about having a caravan I told you about. And so then there was like a GPS point they gave you, and then you would just find them using that. So quartzite is it's not the most beautiful place, but you could put like, I don't know, 500 RVs out there and you wouldn't even make a dent. There is so much free camping out here. It's unbelievable. So we were by Dome Rock, and these are some of the hikes and bikes I went on. But if you want an easy place to camp, there is just unlimited places to camp there. And of course, I got a flat tire because there's so much pine needles or cactus. So good friend Rudy taught me how to, or he actually, I think, took care of it. So anyways, this is the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous. So it was basically at a softball diamond, and they had presentations up there, and people just were hanging out in their their lawn chairs. So it was good. All right, time is flying by. So there's Bob, and I can't remember her name, Sandy. She's kind of one of the main people of Home on Wheels Alliance. So they had a little fun there. They had a bulletin board with different things going on. People were talking about where they were going. So there was just all kinds of stuff. And then at night, the caravans, there was like some campfire circles sometimes people would hang out. So it was a lot of fun. Still had a little sore throat worried about, but yeah, this is what it looks like around Quartzsite. So we did some hiking up there. And of course I got a flat tire too. So Rudy bailed me out here too. So that was a good day. I'm glad my friend from Duluth came down and he was checking it out too. So he had been on the road a lot longer than I had. So they also say that mice can get in your engine compartment and chew up the wires. And one of the strategies is you open up your hood. So there's light in there and they can't, they're detracted. They don't like that. So that's a nice option for you. So public land, so boondocking, like BLM land, you're supposed to only stay there for 14 days. It's not like it's a hard and fast rule, but it's totally fine. All these places are like, you can go out there and stay. And there's some places where you can tell people have been there longer than 14 days, but yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So there's some decent hiking. It's not your classic kind of hike. It's kind of more like mountain goat bouncing around, but we were up on this hill and we ran into these people that were having another gathering. It was like the Gypsy Minstrel, and they were having this like gathering and they had a board up, and I went and hung out with them. And they had their own little fires going on over there. They're a little crazier than the Rubber Tramp people, but it was a good time. And then you meet up with them on Facebook, and I'm still following them today. So some beautiful views, good biking out there. I'm always comparing what people CAD for tools, just for the backup, what you need. So it's a nice options there. Something I really loved is at the RTR, they had like tons of vans. They were showing, how people built out their vans. And it was just fascinating. This is Bob Wells. Since he's done the movie, he's doing a little better. So he got that van and I got to shake his hand. Oh, and here's a fun poem. I'm not going to read it because I don't think I have time here, but it's a great book. It's like, I think it's like $5 on Amazon, but it's just a great book, just talking about how he just lives his life simple. He's been on the road for 40 years and he does it all by just living simple. And he just doesn't spend much on, if you live in a van, a camper, you don't need as much. He calls it his land yacht. So if you watch this on YouTube, you can pause it and read it. So here's some fun videos. Like at Home Depot, you can buy these leaf guards for your gutters, and then you have a screen for your minivan. I was just like, that's brilliant. One lady used these kind of like storage shelves for a bed, and she was able to sleep sideways in her bed. She was short enough. And then, there's just so many different ideas people have. And a lot of times it's just stuff in your house. Just take what you have in your house and check it out. Pull it in there. Little solar options I was taking pictures of. But yeah, there's just so many things going on. So it was fun. And more campfires at night. A lot of fun. Stopped and visited a friend from high school. Oh, I just had to show this. There was a bottle of scotch you could buy. It was $3,500 per shot. Can you imagine that? And that's something. I was blown away. But yeah, Sky Island. This is over by Tucson. So then I ended up going to Tucson. So I like to know where I'm going. So I went over here and just to back you up to see where we're at. So then I went through Phoenix and then down to Tucson. Had a friend from high school I went and visited. We went hiking, and basically there's these huge other, I don't know, they're like mountain ranges. I don't know what you call them. I can't remember the term. It'll come up here in a bit, but Mount Lemon is just a great place to go. It was like a lot hotter down below. And then you go here and it was just so much nicer. I mean, it's just like it's definitely worth a day to go see Mount Lemon. They have a ski hill up there and everything. So it's pretty amazing. But then you come down to the bottom and it's still desert and it's still dry. And the Tucson desert is just so different than like Moab. It's just a lot more lush. I just liked it a lot more than that. So this is kind of a little more what they're talking about here. So still some snow as we went up higher towards Mount Lemon. They do have some campsites. I was able to stay at some campsites a little bit, so I wasn't fully boondocking every night, but it was just nice to not have to think about it. I was still new to the boondocking thing. Arizona Trail goes through Tucson area, just incredible. And there's just a bunch of these cheap, I'm looking at $8 a day, you know. And then I didn't realize I could have used my pass and gotten it cheaper, my national parks pass. But yeah, it was fun to be up on top, and I was able to find a pullout spot on that iOverlander that said you could stay at a pullout for free. And then I would go down and I could look at Tucson at night. It was just a beautiful spot. Oh, and if you do have a wind burner, know that this thing can come off and you have to, so it can stay on your gas container. Watch out for that. So there's that. Oh, and here's that little pullout place I was at that was free. And I got to meet this guy, Lucky. He was just an interesting guy. Taught me some guitar out there, and it's really fun. The people are in vans, like everybody talks to each other, and you just swap stories, what's going on the road. Just a great time. Just some beautiful area. It just fascinates me how much water's still out in Arizona on these things. All right, how am I doing for time? I have about 10 more minutes, I think. How we doing? I don't talk too long. Let's see. 10 more minutes, we good?
Yep, we do have some questions in the chat when you're ready for them, Greg.
Yeah, all right. Throw me a couple questions here.
All right, so they're kind of all over, the map here, but the first one is, did you have any issues with condensation inside the van in the
I didn't really. It was surprising. I mean, they'd fog up, but most times, especially when it was cold, I didn't open my windows, but I had my carbon monoxide detector, so that really helped when I was cooking and stuff. But yeah, I'd sleep all night and didn't have an issue. I'm looking at the chat now too. Showers. I was able to, my friend Rudy had a really nice van down there, and I was able to shower with his van once. But there's, community centers. I didn't shower sometimes for a few days at a time, so I wasn't as concerned about that. And then, did you worry about flat tires? Yeah, and at RTR they talked about flat tires. They talked about getting stuck. They talked about engine. So yeah, make sure your van's tuned up, everything like that. Carry your equipment with you. No bugs. I had no bugs on the trip. There's nothing. Yeah, it was a great time to be out there. And I brought my screens with me, but I didn't need them. Oh, I did get to Gila Wilderness. Yeah, wait, that's coming up. That's one of my top favorite places for sure. Teardrop. Yeah, you could totally do RTR. They're open to like part-time nomads. The gathering is for people that are full-time living, but they're open to part-time people too. So, I mean, I wouldn't go around and say we're on just a 2-week trip, maybe just say you're thinking about doing it, and they're totally open to kind of like talking to you about it and giving you tips. So yeah, let me see. Did I miss any? I've used free campsite. Yeah, free campsite. It's nice. Just a lot of people we talked to that iOverlander seemed to be the big one that it kind of blended a lot of that information in there. I'm not sure how many miles I would say is safe. Just depends on how comfortable you are. I would go 10 hours a day sometimes if that's a long day. But yeah, it kind of just depends on your comfort level. Not sure. I'm not sure when I'm going on my next van trip. We shall see. But all right, so I'm going to jump back get through a few more of these here. So just to show you, the weather did get low down there in Tucson. It was a little cooler than I thought, but like I say, I'm not that worried about that. But I had the candle made a big difference for me. Whether it was psychological, I'm not sure. But these sequoia, I already forgot the names of these. Somebody can say it, but yeah, these are beautiful cactuses by Tucson. Saguaro. Thank you, Saguaro. Thank you. They were just fascinating. And then this is like Sabino Canyon near Tucson. Just incredible. Oh, and this is a friend I made at the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, and she came and joined me over in Tucson. And then we ended up, like she knew some people she met on the road, and I was camping over on this right side here quite a bit. And then, so this is like Tucson, and you go up that purple trail where I went. But then we went all the way across to the west side and found some of her friends. Driving through Tucson is like super slow. So if you ever have to go west to east, I wouldn't advise it. All right, let's jump back into going over here. All right, so now we went over to, oh yeah, we're in Tucson, sorry. All right, we can get thrown off here, too many things going on. All right, so we've got a lot of different cactus out there. I thought this was interesting. You know, if you ever needed a package, there are options out there that you could, I never used it myself, but there's different ways that you can get stuff delivered to you. Went to Tombstone, which is just southeast of Tucson, down in here. So I got to Tucson. That was a beautiful spot. And then, I don't know, I spent a day there. I wouldn't say it's outstanding, but if you kind of like cowboy western, or you ever seen the movie Tombstone, it's definitely worth checking out. They have a little shootout there. And the bar is just, it feels just like a saloon back in the day. I mean, and they have some people that are all dressed up in character. But yeah, it's a neat place. And then one of my favorite place, by this time, I'm finally getting comfortable on the road and not so worried. I just decided to go check this out, the Dragoon Mountains, the Cochise area. And I was planning to stay a day. I ended up staying for 5 days. And that's the beautiful part about boondocking, is you can just fully just go with the wind. And it was just some of the most beautiful country. And yeah, this is the road getting out there. So those are the Cochise Mountains in the background. So they're limited, you know, low maintenance roads. So you have to be real careful about, you know, making sure, you know, insurance is a fine line. It's, if you're too far out there, they're not gonna pay for it. So make sure, they always said, have a tow rope with you. If you get stuck, you can let some pressure out of your tires. This is the candle that helped keep me warm. I did forget to turn it off or blow it out, and it spilled all over. So thank God I didn't burn down my van. So this is some of the stuff that's the biggest concern, is there's like divots. Now I don't know if you can see right here on the front. This is a place where you can blow out your bumper. And so you just take things slow. These roads are kind of all kittywampus, but if you just take things slow, it can make a big difference. But yeah, this is right next to where I camped. And I was able to find this on iOverlander. And then I was able to use my public maps. And I talked to other van campers and they told me about it. I was able to get out for some great bike rides. And so then after I can go in here and show you, like I camped, like where these vans are in the middle, I camped. But then I went all around these different areas. And I just loved it. Oh, and this is a really cool part. This is just cattle roaming. And if you can hear the bells. And if you don't like that noise though, like you got to be careful, because they might end up in your campsite. And people are talking about how that can be super annoying to hear the bells all night. And I ran into this rancher. He's like third generation rancher. He just lets his cattle roam. And then they have their guys on horseback going out there and you know, kind of keeping them together. And I found this Council of Rocks out there. It's just fascinating. And these are actually holes where they would grind up the wheat and the flour or whatever they, you know, to make the food. And they were doing it so much here that they left marks in the rocks. It's pretty cool. So this is a typical day, just sitting out having a little lunch, a little pasta salad, some salami. It was just easy living out there day by day. And it was fascinating. This is like total, like a place where rock climbers go and hang out for a week. And there's even bolts on the rocks. It's just an incredible spot, just an incredible spot. And super nice people. They're like, hey, we're having a campfire later. Come on over. So yeah, people on the road are just, so easy to meet and talk to and get to know. Oh, and there's all these gates out there, and it's so funny. So it says, please keep the gate closed. That means you can go through it. Just make sure you close it, because you see all those cattle. That rancher wants to know his cattle stay in that area. And then there's these rumble strips sometimes where sometimes they'll only have those so the cattle can't get out too. But yeah, some of the roads got a little worse. There are bears. I didn't see anything, but yeah, a lot of cacti. Yeah, this is one of my favorite camping spots. Just loved it. And we went roaming out here and found this old abandoned mine, just way out in the middle of nowhere. It was just cool. Just kind of a typical meal out there. A little dark action, yeah. So okay. So then the next place I went. All right, I got to really watch the time here now. I can really keep talking. Bisbee. All right, we're wrapping it up here. So Bisbee is just, I really didn't think that was going to be that cool of a town, but it just really won my heart. There's just so much to do in Bisbee. It's like, and this is a site I found for free and unbelievable. Look at this. I mean, it blew my mind how nice it was. But the road getting up to it was really spooky, really easy, really steep on the edges. But in town, it's like this old town that used to be a mining town that went bankrupt. And then now it's more of an artist town, but there's a lot of touristy spots to hang out in. Just phenomenal town. And random thing here. So Walmart don'ts resource links. So don't get, basically, if you ever want to sleep in a Walmart, don't get comfy. Don't act like you're camping there. Try to keep it low profile. So those are some kind of basic things to think about when you're thinking about that. So those are some things I found. So I camped in this parking lot one night. I was nervous being out in the woods. So I came back into town and I ended up sleeping in this parking lot and it was fine. So that's Bisbee here. It's like tucked into the hills. And they have this huge old copper mine that just is fascinating. Like that's the old mining areas that went on down there. It used to be the biggest copper producer in the world. This is the wall. I had to go check that out. Pretty thick. And they have this really neat town next to Bisbee. They've kept it looking really, really old school. Just fascinating. I mean, there's not a lot open there. There's like a little coffee shop there, but definitely worth your time. So that's my camping spot that I found for free. And so check out these sunsets and sunrise. I mean, it's just blows your mind. Look at this. I mean, this is just from 10 minutes to the next 10 minutes, it would change. And it was just incredible. So this is the mine tour I took. I actually got really paranoid, like claustrophobic as I went down. I mean, you could reach out your hands across and you could touch both sides of the tunnel. We rode the same train that the miners would ride. Just a phenomenal spot. On the way back coming through over to New Mexico, I ran into some sandhill cranes. Oh, and here's the Gila. No, this is Chiricahua. I never can say that word right. Let me see. There it is. Yeah, Chiricahua, if that's how you say it. Just that is a gold mine. Write that one down. That is just, I mean, it's kind of out of the way and it's not easy to find camping near there, but I did like a, I don't know, 4-hour hike, and like every 10 minutes it was just something fantastic to look at. Just incredible. And just beware on Google Maps, sometimes it's going to take you down a road and you're on this just the most remote gravel road that you can imagine sometimes. So just beware. And there's one of those cattle gates you got to be aware of. Slow down on. This one, another nice, that was a state camp. Yeah, City of Rock State Park. This is now in New Mexico. And the great part about people on the road is they're never afraid to talk about how they use the bathroom. And so this is her bathroom that she liked to use. So that's more popular as the bag method, I got to say, though. So some beautiful country out there. I don't know what that one is, actually. Oh, those are just some old ones. All right. So basically, once I got to Chiricahua, I went over to the Gila. Where is it at? Gila. Let's see. There it is. Yeah, near Silver City. I didn't make it to Silver City. But the worst thing that happened is I broke my phone on the road. And oh my gosh, having a unique phone, I had like a Google Pixel. It was like impossible to get a replacement screen for it. So just, I moved to an iPhone now because I could have easily gotten a replacement screen for that. So anyways, random little thoughts there. But the Gila Cliff Dwellings in New Mexico are outstanding. And if you get a chance, there's like a hot springs right here in town. It's private. and it's just incredible. I wish I had pictures of it here. I thought I'd put some in there, but it was like $10 a night, and just these 3 hot springs, and they had built up rocks around them, and it was just outstanding. So a great place there. So yeah, basically after that, that was about 6 weeks, and that was kind of my goal. I didn't really have an agenda the whole time. It was just go to the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous and then hang out for 6 weeks basically. And so then I just kind of hit the road back home, and I kind of would stop in the middle of the night and find a place to sleep. And yeah, it was really good. It was a great trip. So yeah, there we go. I think that's about right time. And so, oh, last app. So here's another app that I really liked was Open Signal. I had a cousin that died while I was out there, and so I was able to actually attend at the funeral via Zoom, but I really wanted to know I had good internet, and this app really helped kind of point where the towers were, and it was just kind of a game changer. So there's the last little app I'll talk about. So, all right, I'll stop sharing my screen now.
So we do have a few more questions in the chat, Greg.
All right, let me see what we got.
Go up about 7 to Kim, I think, wondering about how long it took to get to Tucson and the total trip.
Yeah, I mean, it took me about 3 days to get out to Tucson, but I think you could hammer it out in a couple days, 2 or 3. I'd say 3 days, but Google Maps is my friend. I would just Google Map everything to see how long it would take me to get places. Let me see here. All right, so I'm going to go from the bottom up here. I can start doing. Oh yeah, solar panels. That was the Jackery in the beginning. That orange panel. I had a 240. This Jackery, and it's really easy to use. It takes nothing. I mean, you can buy it. This is kind of the most simple version to get. Blue Eddy's kind of one they really recommended. It's BULEETTI. I think it was how it was. Is kind of one they really talked about. But just get 2 that work together is kind of the short answer I can say for you. And no inverter. It just comes as a kit. It was the battery and the solar power, the solar panel. I use Gaia and Google. Google I would swear by for driving directions, and I would always download maps ahead of time before going into places like Cochise Mountains. That make sure you on Google Maps. So many people don't download their maps, and it makes such a difference. And it takes hardly any. It takes like 2 or 3 clicks to download maps on Google. Do a Google search on that. That's a game changer for any outdoor adventures you're doing or anywhere off the grid you're going. And I like Gaia for keeping notes. I can keep much better notes. I tried to show that in the presentation about how I can, like if somebody tells me about something, that's where I put it, is in my Gaia. I'll put it in there and I'll write some notes down on it. And I wasn't able to show you as much, but I can take pictures of places and then have an icon that shows me a picture, and I'll just look at it. And it just, yeah, I love that app. It just makes such a difference. Does anybody else have experience with Gaia? Does anybody use that one for similarly how I'm doing? And then Bisbee. Oh yeah, Bisbee is in Arizona. Yep, Bisbee is in Arizona, Nancy. I didn't see any, I don't think I saw any snakes. I think it was just too cold. Lizards, I don't think I saw any of those. All right, Glenda, nice. You like Gaia too. Let's see. This computer. All right, let me play with this one now here. This one looks a little better. All right. This is awkward presenting this way, but I shouldn't say it then, but it's the tricky part. I would just say, I would encourage others to present, because it really was fun going through all my slides and kind of reliving my trip again. So I really encourage others to get out there and present, because I think they're looking for people kind of soon. So it it's not half as hard as you think here. Talk with anyone about. Yeah, there was a lot of people that went to Baja. They were like having a blast in Baja, and they talked about going to the dentist actually, and eye care and pharmacy in just across the border in Arizona. And I just bought. I could have food for my ice lasted about 3 days. I could get 3 days out of 2 blocks of ice. And I would just stop. I loved going to Aldi's or Trader Joe's, so I would kind of map it out based on that a lot of times. But I would, like I say, I went 4 or 5 days. I could go 4 or 5 days with my food. That was pretty nice. Chiricahua. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. That's a good way to say it. I mean, still kind of. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a few people I still am friends with on Facebook, and they are always like, "You coming? Are you getting back out here?" And And people volunteer at the RTR. Like some of the people that went last year that I got to be friends with, they volunteered this year. Not sure when I'm heading out there again. I'm heading to Spain next for a hiking trip in March. So I'm excited about that.
Greg, I noticed a harmonica in your van. Do you play that as well?
That was my instrument for the trip. Was I'd wake up and I actually did yoga in my van. And then I'd do my yoga and then I would play harmonica for 5 to 10 minutes because I've always been curious about that, and it worked out. I was able to finally play some songs and scales. It's a great travel instrument. So yeah.
Did you do it all on your phone, or did you have a laptop with you, or
oh, and I did it
or something? Or
yeah, so I did have a laptop with me, and I really liked having my under the floor storage. It kind of gave me security feeling that I even if somebody were to break into my van, I might have a chance that they didn't find my van. So that was a nice feeling. But the 240, if you get in a solar, the 240, I had tons of power with, a Jackery 240. I had never had an issue having enough. I had my phone and my a few different gadgets, but the laptop was a big reason I wanted that because it was a lot easier to deal with that. And I had a hotspot on my phone, so that really helped.
Say, Greg, there were
two
questions earlier on. One person was wondering what kind of cooler you used, and then another person was wondering whether you saw any snakes and lizards.
The cooler, I just got it at Walmart. I mean, it was just a igloo, I think. It was just really nothing fancy. And it was just the blocks of ice made a difference. They're not easy to find always, but blocks can make a big difference. And snakes and lizards, no, I didn't see any. I think Rudy might be on here. I can't remember. He might remember if I saw some, but yeah, I didn't. I think it was just too cold. It was just too cold that time of year. February, March. I would say February, March is January, February is when I went. Nobody's out there. That 20 degrees at night, and it can get colder sometimes. Really keeps a lot of people away. And I think March it's still not too busy. But yeah, so I liked it. I thought it was fine. So yeah, us Minnesotans, a little easier. Let's see. Anything else? Any other questions?
you camp up in the mountains above Tucson there. There's some beautiful campgrounds up there where I camped. And the great thing, like you said, there's no bugs.
Yeah, I thought there were some great mountain bike trails there too, but there's so much hiking just to the southeast of Tucson. There's just so much. I mean, I hardly tapped it. I mean, I could stay out in Tucson area for a month. There's so much boondocking out there. Yeah, highly encourage you. And if anybody has questions in the future, shoot me an email or whatever, and I can help guide you in directions. And I might even throw in some links on the YouTube video that goes up. Some of those, or if you just search like some of those videos I showed you, like the minivan. It's a great video to watch because he really does a nice job showing the van and how he used it. So anyways, thanks for coming and hearing the story. Hope you got something out of it.
Well,
definitely did. Good presentation.
Any last questions?
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
Sue. Oh, you've got Sue is clapping.
Yeah, it's the clapping hands.
All right. There was
a question there.
Supposed to stay
Carol,
in rest areas overnight.
that was talked about at the RTR, Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, and that's not true. And I mean, some states maybe, but in general, like the minimum most people I heard of, it was like 4 hours. Every state is a little different, but a lot of times you can go 6 hours, 12 hours. But it's really hard for anybody to give you a hard time when you're saying, I just can't go anymore, I'm too tired. I mean, they're not going to push you on. If it's a cop, they're not going to push you on. Or even if they do push you on, you got to sleep. Okay. Yeah, somebody says they're not safe for women, but okay. I mean, I think it's kind of whatever your opinion is on traveling alone versus or not. That's where I said I got pepper spray. So I always had my keys. I always knew right where my keys were. I always kept my driver's seat open so I could jump up and take off if I needed to. Had my cell phone on me. So I think there's ways you can minimize risk.
Greg, this was fascinating.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Great job,
Thanks,
Greg.